Welcome back to Lane 4 Podcast. Today we're here with Hector Pardoe, who is two-time Olympic marathon swimmer. Hector, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thanks, mate. So tell us what it was like preparing for the Paris Olympics 2024.
Um, Very long, obviously, 3-year process since Tokyo, and kind of having finished Tokyo, I was very low on confidence after that eye injury, and then it's been a massive journey rebuilding all of that, and kind of getting to a point where I felt like I could compete at the very top of the sport again. I've done my preparation this year has been different to past years. I've done 3 altitude camps this year.
Okay.
So I've been building that throughout this 3 years. So the first year I did one, second year I did two, then this year I did three, and I think it's worked really nicely. But yeah, obviously conventional preparation for a marathon, just a hell of a lot of volume and a lot of
Yeah.
commitment, discipline, and like just training in general.
Yeah. Because obviously you had a quite an unfortunate, event in Tokyo. To spring back from that wouldn't have been easy. So it must
No,
be,
yeah.
yeah, it must be battling with that through the training process. And obviously it's come to Paris and it's gone very well. What's it been like training at Loughborough? Do you enjoy it there? Like the training group? Is it a good environment?
Yeah, I think Loughborough is a good environment. I think it's good training. Like I was in France before that training for 3 years. I basically took 3 gap years and I was out there training with a coach called Philippe Luca, who he currently coaches. He's a renowned open water coach, and when I moved to him, he was regarded as probably the best open water coach in the world at the time. He'd coached Sharon Van Rindel to win the 2016 Olympic Games there, Marc Antoine, who won bronze in 2016. So I was heading into the Olympic cycle with the past previous Olympics best coach. Swimmers that you may like who he coaches now, like Anastasia Kopychnikova in the swimming pool, you might know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Ahmed Jahoudi, the guy, Tunisian boy in
yeah.
the
Okay,
eight
yeah,
and 1500. So he's got a vast resume, and he's considered one of the best distance coaches of all time. So moved out there and spent 3 years, and then I just decided that my preparation into Tokyo, I got quite unfortunate. I got glandular fever before the games, and I'd lived away from my parents for all that time, not seen them because of the COVID pandemic. Trained like unprecedented amounts. Like the intensity was just so old school. He has a certain
yeah,
style of training, and then I'd got out to Tokyo and performed the way I did, and then obviously I wasn't even there contending for the top places even before the eye injury. So I was like, it's not worth it. I don't want to. As much as I love the French life and all the sun and all of that out there training outdoors, I just wanted to come back to the UK, be close to where my parents are, start a degree because swimming's not a high paid sport, is it? So I've got to set
yeah,
myself up for the future. So yeah, I moved back to Loughborough and really liked it. And obviously there was a lot of momentum in our group with people like Dan Whiffen, Felix Obeck, who just become a world champion in December in Abu Dhabi short course. Toby Robinson, Asterios
yeah,
Dardangiannis. There was lots of talent, and I think we've all pushed each other a lot. It's nice having such an excellent group to work with and race against in day in day out in training. So I think that's been really nice and pushed me a lot, and it's helped me rebuild that confidence. And obviously working with Andy Manley since then
yeah,
until the games this year. So yeah, it's been amazing, and I think it's really helped with kind of finding a different perspective and enjoyment in the sport and longevity because the way I was training in France, I wouldn't have had a long career like that.
yeah. It could have been quite, was it like coming back? Did you enjoy coming back to France? Was it almost like coming home? Like, was it very familiar?
Yeah, well, I've never lived in Loughborough before, so like it was still a new place, and it was quite cool. Loughborough's a very small town, and it's not really got much
Yeah,
going for it other than the university. So, and I'd come from Montpellier, which is like a 500,000 people city in south of France, so like the same as Manchester or something. So yeah, it was a big change of scenery, obviously, going from like a big city to a tiny town.
yeah,
But like just the obviously didn't know much in Loughborough or what there was, so it was nice for the first year or so. Now Loughborough, that's not the reason why I train there. I don't train there because I enjoy Loughborough town
yeah,
so much. But yeah, the training is why I'm there, and I think it's added a new dynamic to my swimming career where I'm able to balance studying, balance my swimming as well, and
yeah,
kind of take the pressure off myself.
yeah. That's a really good way of being able to continue it in the long term. Because so
Exactly.
obviously a lot of the other boys were swimming the 10K as well. Some of them. did you enjoy being able to race with them as well? Like, did you guys have some tactics between you? Like, was there anything
No,
there?
so that they I knew for about a year since the policy got added that 15 and 800 swimmers who didn't have two quota spots already filled for their nation were going to be able to race. Personally, I don't really agree with the policy as much as it was
Okay.
like pretty cool having Dan and Felix and all of
Yeah.
them like to race with. But yeah, in terms of tactics, of course, like as mates and stuff, we travel the world and go on all these training camps and stuff. And we were hypothesizing, like, oh, we're going to do a Loughborough breakaway. It's going to be 5 people out at the front, and we're all going to be drafting off each other. But deep down, I knew that was never going to happen. Open water is a completely different sport, and when you're like first introduced, like this was their first introduction from those boys who I train with to open water, apart from Toby, obviously, who's
Yeah.
a veteran of the sport and done many races. So I knew that they probably weren't going to be up there, and it wasn't going to be. We weren't going to be able to do like dream tactics and
Yeah.
breakaways and all of that. So, yeah, I knew that I was going to have to figure out my own tactics myself and race it by my own, and
Yeah.
try and win the medal by myself. Obviously, I didn't, but that was the plan going in. So, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, it was really fun to race with them, and I think they did really well considering like the circumstances. First ever open water race,
Yeah.
and it's an Olympic Games in like a really really technical course with an incredible current that you need to swim quicker than like
Yeah.
112. You need to swim quicker than 112 pace, exertion level to even move on the way back in swimming into that current. So it was a very very difficult course, and to do that for your first ever one, there's so many technical aspects of open water, like the feeding and all of that
Yeah.
you can't just pick up immediately, and it takes time. So Dan did well and Felix did well, and I'm not sure, but I think that Dan's did that interview obviously after the race saying
Yeah.
that was it, he's retiring. But we'll see. I'm trying to convince him to come to some of the World Cups next year because I think it is far more enjoyable than from some pool racing.
Yeah.
A lot less pressure. You're obviously outdoors. You get to enjoy the cities that you visit more,
Mm.
and you only have one race. You've not got heats, finals, and all of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see next year if Dan carries on, but should be good if he
Yeah.
does.
It's not an easy race to be your first one because obviously from watching it, it was very tactical. Like if you knew open water swimming, it massively helped. Like you
Yeah,
boys
yeah,
who've actually swum it before, because the guys that obviously won it were all swimmers that have done it a lot. And
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
current looked incredible. Like coming along that 40 meters at the top, that to swim at an angle to get that, like because obviously the girls' race was before you guys. Did you use how they swam it to sort of help your tactics?
Yeah, so we were like lucky that the girls were obviously before us, but then I guess if we hadn't watched the girls, we would have all been in the same boat anyway. It would have been the
Yeah.
unknown. But yeah, we were able to watch obviously the triathlon as well, watch the women's race the day before and kind of master some of the techniques in that. But even so, and I had a swim as well, actually. We were the only sport that could have a familiarization swim in the
Yeah.
same. And I tried to master that top turn because that was just incredibly technical. And I've never experienced a river like that before. You don't really. It's unconventional to have an open water race in a massive city right in the heart of it in the river. So um, going forward, I think that's great for the sport. But yeah, nothing I'd ever experienced. So tried to master it the day before, and then obviously my second attempt was the first lap in the race, and I think probably 95% of us ended up swimming like an extra 20, 30, 40 meters on that top straight, just from how far it pushed you. But we quickly adapted the technique, and it's almost like it's a canoe slalom technique where because the current's so strong, you want to aim inside of the buoy, like
Yeah.
40, 50 meters visually inside of the buoy, like you're aiming for something completely different. And then you'll use the current to hold you in position and then gradually move over the top part of the rectangle of the lap. So these were all things that picked up during the race, but we'd
Yeah.
prepared for that all year. Like, for example, we raced in May in Seville in the Spanish Open Water Nationals, and the German boys had the same strategy. They both turned up for that, and we didn't swim on the course the day before because we were like, this could happen in Paris. We could get to Paris and not swim on it, and you're gonna have to pick the things up on the first lap and be like adaptable. So I'd had practice doing it, and I think I picked it up quite well, and
Yeah.
yeah, overall an all right result. And yeah.
Yeah. So are you happy with the sixth place? Because obviously it's a good result, much better than Tokyo, but obviously everyone's always hoping for the best, but you're still very happy with it, I take it.
Yeah, I think I've had some time to reflect on it, and there's obviously things to be proud of. I think there are some big names who I beat who you probably would have who had better odds than me going into it, and
Yeah.
who were more favoured. I I have a few regrets, and like I think which is a positive thing now because it's firing me up even more for LA. But yeah, I think I really thought I could have won a medal there, and it would have been obviously incredible. It
Yeah.
would have been Britain's first ever open water Olympic medal since 2008. So slight disappointment, but then yeah, taking away the positives from it, there are lots of things to be proud of, and I think going forward, it's made me even hungrier. Like Tokyo made me really hungry because I'd obviously didn't finish,
Yeah.
and I wanted to kind of redeem that performance. But there was always like that tiny thought in the back of my mind, like I've won a world medal, but is the Olympics just a different ball game? Because I wasn't prepared for how the race in Tokyo went. I didn't expect like a breakaway like that. So I was like thinking, is this going to be like unconventional, like unpredictable race? Slight nerves, but now I've got a result there, sixth. I'm happy. Like it's something that is a great result, and I think going forward to LA now, it's like, damn it, I could have like if I'd done this slightly differently or that, I could have got a medal. And I think in LA, I'll be on the start line, and making sure I'm not having no regrets after it at all.
Yeah, it's good. It gives you that hunger and that fire ready to go. So, what was your thoughts before the race on the conditions of the river? Because obviously there was a lot of talk about the safeness of the water. Were you worried about that?
Yeah, I don't think I was really too concerned about it. Obviously, the height made it more worrying than other races, but I think it's only because it's the Olympics is it getting all of this media attention, and I think every Olympics games that there is 2008, 2012, 2016 in open water, there's always talk about the water quality. But whenever we race 6-7 times in the year before that, wherever that may be, where it's Doha, Spain, France, Germany, wherever, there's never any concerns about the water quality. And I don't think it's just the river. Like, I've raced in some pretty dirty harbours in Barcelona and stuff. So I think the water quality was just made a bigger thing out of than it actually was. And looking back on it now, I think Paris did a fantastic job making that their Olympic legacy, and I'm really grateful that they shone the light on open water swimming, marathon swimming so much, and gave us that platform. Because now, obviously, I think a lot of the swimmers who raced in that have finished racing and now on their holidays are experiencing a lot of social media growth from it all, getting a lot more followers, maybe new sponsors looking at it, because there's obviously the wetsuit market in swimming is the biggest product market it's bigger than tech suits, it's bigger than goggles, all of that. But the trouble is none of them really come into open water swimming, they just stay in triathlon. So maybe now with putting the marathon swimming in the same and giving it such a platform, some of these brands might decide to come in and start sponsoring more athletes, investing more money, and hopefully it will grow the sport. So a crazy race and one that I'll look back on as with such memories, and one of the most iconic venues that there's ever been in open water swimming. So a privilege to have raced in it.
Yeah, as you say, it's great to give it a spotlight and finally give it a bit of growth, so these people can start making media about it, get on social media and spread it around. Because obviously pool swimming is starting to come up a lot at the moment as well. So it's nice to see open water do the same. So what was your general
I think
experience?
open water.
Oh no, go ahead.
Go on.
Sorry.
I was going to just say, like, open water swimming in Britain is sometimes I feel like looked down upon, and me saying that as an open water swimmer, like I always hear people saying like, oh, it's an event for failed pool swimmers and all of that, and it's like you're looking at it now, and I feel like that's the issue in Britain. Why, obviously I've got sixth place and it's the best result since 2012, but we've not got any younger talent coming through, and some kids aren't even being given the opportunities now to race on the European Junior stage, race on the World Junior stage. And I'd like that to change. I think if there's one thing that I can do, obviously my main mission is to win medals and break records and stuff, and raise the profile of the issue of water quality and all that. But another thing that really pushes me on to keep doing what I'm doing is the potential to inspire younger kids in Britain to take up the sport, because it is amazing. And I think that this narrative that it's a for failed pool swimmers is just simply not true anymore. The sport's changed massively. Even every 4 years, it changes and becomes so much more competitive. And I would say, arguably, the open water this year in Paris was the most competitive event out of all swimming events. Like, you've got pretty much 20 guys who swim sub 15 minutes in the 1500. You had half the Olympic final in the men's 1500 doing it. And then you've also got all the open water specialists, like what I would consider myself,
Yeah.
doing it as well. So there's so many different people who have their different specialties. It's like Tour de France cycling. You have people who do cyclocross, mountain bike, time trialists all coming together, and I think that's what we had, and it makes for a really competitive stage. So I would love to see more people in Britain take up open water swimming, and this is kind of me encouraging people to do that, and
Yeah.
say, like, hopefully, if anybody, I guess your demographic on this
Yeah.
podcast is younger generations in British age group swimming. So give it a go. Turn up to one of the British open water races in the year and try it. And even if you don't enjoy it, you might not enjoy your first one. You're in the UK. It's not
It's not
there are
easy.
other opportunities in going into the Mediterranean or wherever in Europe where none of the races are actually in the UK really. So don't just take it for its value of how you enjoyed it in the UK, but think about the potential possibilities and opportunities. And I've been fortunate enough to travel the world and race internationally for 8 or 9 years. So yeah, any future kids who want to take open water, just give it a go.
No, I completely agree because I do a lot of distance and open water stuff. So I prefer open water myself, and I agree the stigma of it is quite poor at the moment in the UK. There's a lot of people, you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, you place in this in nationals and a pool swim, and everyone's like, wow. You do the same at open water, it doesn't mean as much, which
No,
isn't
yeah,
what you want. It is not what you want. Like even from somewhere where we're obviously, so Mount Kelly is a very swimming school. We
yeah,
obviously we want to push open water more because obviously not enough people do it. So like we'll have such a huge pool swimming base, and then our open water is like not even an eighth of what our pool swimming people are. So we
yeah,
went on a very interesting camp to Mallorca last year, where they do all these open water swims, and it was really good to see some young swimmers actually doing it. Because
yeah,
this
yeah.
year,
Best fest.
Best Fest, that's exactly what. Have you
Exactly.
been
Yeah,
to it? It's incredible.
yeah. That's
Such a
where
good
I
event.
started my career. Like I raced. I started like open water when I was like 12 years old in the local mere in Ellesmere because I went to Ellesmere College, and then
Okay.
kind of fell in love with it. Started doing it once a week, every week. And then when I was like 14, I got selected to go on that Best Fest competition.
Yeah.
Went out obviously to Colonial St George, I think
Yeah.
that's the name of where it
Yeah,
is,
that's the one. Yeah.
and just absolutely loved it. Loads of other boys doing it there with me. Met some great friends for life, and just great time out there. And obviously racing in such crystal clear water. And
It's stunning.
I was also fortunate that there was like the German team there. So Florian Wellbrook, when he was still a young, like only like 18, 19, so a few years older than me, but he was there racing, so I got the chance to race him before I even knew who he was. So that was pretty cool. And then there was also like Canadian World Junior team there,
Yeah.
and I think every year there's always different teams turning up and racing, and it's great to experience that. And then I was fortunate enough to be selected for the World Juniors that year, where I went and won 2 medals there. So
Wow.
yeah, just if you don't enjoy swimming in Rother Valley, don't take that
Yeah.
as the face
It's the
value,
one
because
experience.
it's one experience, and that there are going to be plenty more, and that's the beauty of our sport. It's so unconventional, so many different elements to it,
Yeah.
and it's always changing. It's unpredictable.
Agreed.
So yeah,
Yeah,
but
the exciting
it's
nature of
great to
it.
even hear that Mount Kelly have an open water group at least, because
Yeah.
many places in the UK just don't. And like even if you're not doing it from the sport at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, like you can pick open water swimming up at any time. Like obviously there are huge differences from the pool, but ultimately it is swimming. So
Yeah. Because I don't know if you've heard of these events going on at the moment called Ocean Man swims. They're
yeah, I've
going
heard of Ocean
on.
Man.
Yeah, so this year I've signed up to do a couple, one in Spain, and they look like because these are really pushing open water at the moment. 10K swims where
Yeah,
all age groups are doing it. Would you ever be interested in doing one of those?
yeah, they paid me to make an appearance. I would do it, but
Yeah,
I think other like I can do my own iconic swims and organise them myself, like I did last year with Lake Windermere. So if I'm going to
yeah,
do, there'll be some more next year that I'm going to do, and some exciting projects. But
yeah,
yeah, unless they pay me to do an Ocean Man, because for me it's got to benefit me
yeah.
and grow
Agreed.
my profile and get attention for it. And an Ocean Man doing that is just a 10K. But
Yeah,
it's a great business. It's a business, isn't it? So
yeah,
it's a great commercial event and growing it open water swimming. And I know that Sharon Van Ruendel, so unfortunately, I don't actually have an Olympic gold medal to demand the appearances, but obviously
Yeah,
she does. So she's the one
she's
getting all
going.
these
Yeah,
appearance fees, and she's going to do them. So I think that's great, and hopefully pass on her knowledge and her expertise of the sport. I mean,
yeah,
the GOAT of open water swimming, so there's no better
yeah.
person to learn from there. And I think they're all, I see that they're all over the world. They've got quite a lot of them. I think that
Oh,
there's actually there might even be there's one where I'm right now. I'm on a lake in Italy called Lake Orta, and I'm pretty sure that
mm.
they have one every year at the end of
Yeah,
June
there
here.
is one there.
So
Yeah,
I am going to go back on what I said there because I might do the one. I might do that because I mean my parents have an apartment here, and I've
you
always
might as
thought
well.
about it's shorter than Lake Wyndham. It's only 14K or whatever. I don't know. I think maybe the Ocean Man one that they swim around it, so it's like 26. But there is a world record to beat. I think the world record's like 7 hours or something. So not that quick. Definitely doable. So maybe you'll see me doing that next year. Who
Nice.
knows? But
Yeah.
which ones are you doing? Which Ocean
So
Mans are you going
I'm
to do?
doing Ibiza is the one in October, the one I'm going to, and
Yeah.
then hopefully there's obviously like a world championship bit in Dubai, and hopefully I'll qualify for that because you've only got to come top 10 in your age group, which is
Wait, so they're doing like a world championship one in Dubai in December.
yeah,
That's really
big one,
cool.
December. So in yeah, this like 15th onwards, they do like a week of all these countries come down. So you
That's
qualify
awesome,
for
isn't it?
doing another one.
Because like obviously like I was saying earlier, now in Britain, some kids aren't in a position to go to all of these, to go to Vienna, to go to the World Juniors and race on that international scene. But Ocean Man, it's like you can kind of fund yourself, and there's no
Yeah, exactly.
limitations or selection criteria. So you can go to this one in Ibiza, qualify, and then you might get to Dubai and win it and technically be a
Exactly.
world champion. So
No,
um,
it's a
all the
very
best with
cool
that.
platform. Thank you, mate.
Yeah.
One other thing I'd say about open water in the UK is I'd really like to see, swimming and push the open water events wise, because obviously we've got nationals, but other than nationals and regionals, there's no other competition. It'd be nice to see a couple more, come through. And I don't know if you'll
Yeah.
be pushing
I've
swims like
I've
that.
always got that. I always think that like it would be fantastic if we could have a World Cup or a Len Cup in Britain. Like we've got Lake
Oh,
Windermere, we've got like the Serpentine, Loch Lomond, all of these amazing venues across the country where we've hosted races before. And like I would say, most open water swimmers, European open water swimmers on the circuit, we would ask them their favorite European championships ever. They would probably say Glasgow 2018, just for how amazingly run that event was. It was run by a guy called Colin Hill, who organised the whole London 2012 Hyde Park race, Olympic marathon race there. So yeah, I'd love to see it, but unfortunately, funding, like
yeah,
the way it's all set up with World Aquatics, is if you want to host a World Cup, the federation has to put the prize money up. So for every World Cup that there is, it's $30,000, 15,000 for each gender. So it's top 10 receive prize money in both, and it accumulates to 30,000. So the federation has to put that up, and then they also have to put up the marquee, all the actual event, organize it all. And the only thing that World Aquatics do is endorse it, put their name on it, and then provide the referees and pay for the referees to be in
yeah.
hotel, all of the staff. So yeah, it's
There's a lot to
not really
do.
that much. There's a lot to do and not that much reward. But yeah, I definitely think that even if it wasn't a Len Cup or World Cup, it would be great to see, like 4, 5, 6 years ago when the Great North Swim had a pro race in Windermere there, and we would use that as our qualification races. I think to have one of that where everybody in Britain can kind of arrive and accumulate in one area where we're all going to race, and all of every distance swimmer would be great to actually see the turnout, because I'm always like watching or racing in French open water championships or Spanish open water championships, and they've got like 90 to 100 guys turning up
Yeah,
in an open water race, and like we just wouldn't have that. But okay, that's okay. We've got to start somewhere, and
yeah,
if we start with 25, 30 and try and build it from there, great. So maybe in a few years, I've tried speaking to higher up people in British swimming, saying
yeah,
that this would be a great idea, but of course it just goes back to the funding of it all. It's
yeah, it
expensive.
did. It is expensive. So going back to Paris, what was your experience like at Paris, with the Olympic Village? What was it like being part of Team GB?
I think it was different to what I experienced in Tokyo. Obviously, there wasn't much socialization in Tokyo, but I'm because it was my first Olympics and like kind of got in the village, and then I was just like amazed by everything. I was doing a lot more socializing with the mask on than I was in Paris, and that's probably why I didn't perform as well in Tokyo. Tired myself out a lot, and I had like that kind of 20-year-old mentality, like, oh wow, this is cool, and going here, there, and everywhere in the village, and probably
Yeah.
wasting a bit too much energy. I've learned from that over the last 3 years, like, time, energy conservation and all that is so crucial in the build up to the race.
Yeah.
So I didn't really do that much before it. I tried to just get my meals in, make sure that I was getting all the carbohydrates and calories, and stayed focused on the race. Make sure I was doing all my recovery, making sure I was doing my sessions at the right time. So obviously the race was at 8 a.m. and it would have been an easy. You could kind of the pool was open from like 7 till 12, so it would be an easy choice to just be like, oh, we'll train at 10, have a lie-in. But obviously, I wanted to try and get my body on that time zone of diving in and swimming right at 8 a.m. So I was training at that time, and then training not that in the afternoon at like 3. So there was a short gap, but I was just making sure that everything that I was doing was for that race. And then afterwards, I had 3 days in the village where I could sit back and enjoy the touristy
Yeah.
attractions out there, and go and do everything that I didn't do beforehand, and enjoy the moment. So yeah, and I think that was the right attitude, and I'll adopt the same in LA, not get too distracted by all the noise and everything going on around. I'm just conscious that this is 30 minutes, right? So
It's
you
40
can do
minutes. So we've got, yeah, we've got
40
like,
minutes,
so we've got a bit more time, tiny bit
but you can
more.
always make a new one if you want. If there's other questions, I don't mind.
Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, so LA, are you going to change anything for it? Like, is there going to be some big changes in training? Because will you be staying at Loughborough for the next 4 years, or are you going to have to
Yeah,
try
so
and?
I've got 2 more years on my course, and I own a house there, so I'll definitely be staying in Loughborough. That's like my setup now. Sorry about my voice.
No, don't worry, mate.
Partied
You're all
pretty
good.
in the village, like I was just talking about after the race. So a
Yeah.
lot of screaming for Travis Scott and all of that. So lost it a bit, but yeah, I'm gonna stay in Loughborough, and that's gonna be my training base for the next 4 years. I would imagine. I don't see me changing that at all. Um, Things I think I can change is I think I can be a lot more. I would like to get a lot more knowledge around the actual courses that I'm racing on. So every World Cup and every World Championships and all of that, kind of all of the nations don't go into as much detail as they do for the Olympic Games. Funding is all done off the Olympic Games. So whenever we go to the Olympic Games, in hindsight, I always look back in it and I'm like, oh, the coaches come forward of the medalists and they say we were doing this, that, and that, and then I'm reading it and I'm like, I didn't do that, I didn't do this.
Yeah.
That's why they've won that medal. These tiny marginal gains. So Tokyo, obviously, Florian Wellbrook came out and said that he'd been swimming in a flume set at 30 because the
Yeah.
water temperature was 32 degrees. So he'd been training in a flume at 32 degrees to prepare for that, where I'd been doing no heat
Yeah.
prep at all. So and when you think about that, like training and swimming at a race in 32 degrees compared to the conventional 20 degrees in where most open water
Yeah.
races are is just massive. So I kind of learned that from Tokyo, and then done 3 years of racing, and then went into this one thinking that I'd done everything I possibly could in terms of tiny marginal gains. And then afterward the race, obviously the medalists come out, the 2 Hungarian boys and the Hungarian coach come out and said that they actually knew that what the currents was going to be. They knew that it was going to be
Mm,
1.2 meters a second. And they worked with the canoe Hungarian director, the rowing Hungarian director, and the surf life-saving guy. And they analyzed it all, set up an identical course in the Danube River where they had 1,660-meter laps, and the current on the way down and the current on the way up was exactly the same. And they've been training on that twice a week for the whole year. And then you look at it and you go, well, they've never had
that's
two Hungarians on a podium in the Olympics
yeah.
before. And all of a sudden, they've just performed probably the most dominant. Well, apart from Florian Wellbrook, I'd say Christoph's performance here in Paris. I mean, he
Yeah.
led 5 out of the 6 laps, so incredibly dominant. And like, how was he able to do that? And I think, like, obviously, he beat
That has
me
a
by big factor, and he beat me by 58 seconds. And it's like, wow, that's quite a lot. But when you look at it in grand
yeah.
scheme of things, in marathon swimming, it's
That's
0.5%.
not yeah.
Exactly. So now I'm looking at it like, these tiny things, and that's what I need to implement for LA. I need to make sure that there's no stone unturned, and that I
Try
get
everything.
everything right. I think as well, I'm going to start doing even more altitude. I love it. I love altitude
Yeah.
training, and I think it's really beneficial. I did 10 weeks up in 10 weeks up in the mountains this year, so maybe I'll build it. I'll try and probably do a little bit less next year. Have a little kind of relaxed year, focus on Singapore Worlds, but of course these altitude camps do cost money, so
Yeah.
yeah, maybe not as much altitude this next year, but after that, start building into LA 10, 12, 16 weeks in the year of LA, and see that, and hopefully get a medal there because of it.
Yeah. So going slightly off the Paris thing, would you ever swim, or have you ever swum the channel? Would it be on your cards?
Yeah, I think I definitely want to swim the channel. Like, I swam Lake Windermere, and that's 17.5, so that's exactly half what the channel is. I've also swum a 25K before, so I
Okay.
think that really interests me. The channel is definitely a project for the future.
Yeah.
It's probably most likely going to be next year. And yeah, you'll be seeing more on that on my social medias and stuff once I get that announced. But yeah, that's something I want to go for. And I think
Yeah.
obviously the world record's held by a German guy, Andreas
Yeah.
Waschberger, who raced in London and Rio in a mortar. That's very, very quick world record, like 1:13 pace for 33 kilometers, which is pretty crazy, obviously, without the
Pretty quick.
turns as well. Because
Yeah.
obviously in the pool, turns make a massive difference. So it's a hard world record, but something I think I could do if I get the right conditions. Channel swimming is all about that. It's about what you get on the day.
Yeah.
So an element of luck if you get that duck pond or not. But yeah, definitely next year I'm going to try and get that in the calendar and give it a go.
Yeah, mate. Because I've got, why I mentioned is I've got that set up. So I've booked it for June 2025. So I'm
Oh, you're
booked
doing the
into,
channel?
yeah, in
Mate,
2025.
that's epic. That's epic. How old
So
are you?
I'm 17. So
Oh wow,
I,
that's a massive achievement if you do it, and I'm sure you will.
I'd
Like,
love to do it, but I was saying I'd love to do some collaborations over it with the both social media, get into it and do some training bits, see what we can do. So I think that'd be very
yeah.
cool.
That would be very cool. That's amazing. That's really good
Yeah.
because obviously you've got your podcast and you've got a big demographic of age group swimmers. So to swim that and hopefully finish it and do it in a pretty good time,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you will. I think
Thank you, mate.
obviously I don't know what your 1500 PBs are and stuff, but I'm sure you're a good swimmer in the pool. 10 hours and under, that would be
Yeah.
incredible if you can do that.
Yeah.
So wow, that would be good, and you'll
Yeah.
probably inspire quite a few other kids in
That's
the
the
UK
idea, mate.
get involved. Very good.
Yeah. I want to do it for a charity, obviously, try and raise some money, men's mental health, that kind of thing. So I think it would be
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cool if we can try and, really push it, it would be nice. So,
yeah.
is there a quote? So we'll start to wrap up. Is there a quote that you live by? Is there just a little cheesy quote?
Prepare to fail, fail to prepare. There we go. Prepare to
That's it.
fail, fail to prepare. And I think that's kind of like what happened in Paris. Obviously, I was fully prepared with all the training elements and everything, but those tiny marginal gains, which is 0.5%, and like no one remembers sixth place. Ultimately, it's brutal and it's
That is
being
true.
harsh words to describe my own result, but even people only remember the medalists, right? And that's where history is recorded, the medalists. And I'm looking at it now like that tiny 0.5% that they've beat me by, where they've been training on the Danube River in an identical course for the last year, 2 sessions a week. For LA, that's what I want it to make sure that I get it all nailed and there's
Yeah.
nothing that I'm no regrets, and I make sure that I've got all of the data possible, because I think that this course in Paris and every Olympics is always unconventional. It's in a harbour with 32 degrees, or it's in a river in the heart of Paris with a 1.2 meters a second current, where different areas of the course have different cubic meter speeds and all of that. So it's highly analytical. In every Olympics, it's always like that. It's different to what we've been racing on. So for LA, make sure that I get that all patterned out and that everything's perfect, and I know every single meter of the course where the currents are stronger, where it's best to swim, where the trajectory for the boys are the best. And yeah, that's mainly what I'm going to follow by.
Yeah. Well, love it, mate. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us. I absolutely love speaking to you. And hopefully, what next 4 years leads to a good result at LA. But hopefully we can do maybe another podcast in a couple of months, do some more questions. It's been really good. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you very much for having me.
So for more Lane 4 podcast content, go to @Lane4 podcast. Thank you so much.